Fans of Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for a, well, bit of a model hobbying video. And what I'm going to be doing in this video is, well, doing some work on preparing parts for this impressive model here, which is my Legion Fellblade tank. But that's not really the purpose of this video. The purpose of having some stuff to do is a bit of a vehicle really for a bit of chat. And a few people have been commenting over the last month or so that channel Leakycheese, my YouTube channel, has been going for around a year now. And that's quite right. I think I really properly started sometime in October 2016. I very much appreciate the kind words and the good wishes that have been expressed so far. So yes, thank you for that. But I thought it'd be interesting just to share some thoughts with you, almost like a bit of a retrospective looking back on my first year of doing this YouTube channel. And just share a few thoughts and memories, a bit about the experience really. That's what we're doing today. In true build and chat video, let's just go through a few tools I'm going to be using. So we're cleaning up resin components, got a sharp scalpel, we've got a needle file, which has got a curved upper, flat underside and tapering to a point. We have a couple of sanding sticks. These are by Flexifile. We've got a coarse 1500 and a 2800 medium grit. Very handy. What else do we have? I think that's probably most of the things we need. We've got Dusty Brush, our faithful companion. How long have I had Dusty Brush? Gosh, over 30 years I think. And just in case we need them, I've also got these two, which are two micro chisels. We've got these are both 2mm heads, and we've got a square and a rounded one. I think these are Tool of the Year award, quite possibly. And we've got a load of parts to do. I've got these tracks that I'm partway through doing. A pile of las cannons. Las cannon mounts. Las cannon doohickeys, so power cables and targeting widgets. A couple of dudes arms and war gear, a variety of armor and hull clips, and then these two, which are the guards for the sponsored weapons. So I've got a load of parts to work out. I have no idea how many of these we're going to get done, but that doesn't really matter. The other thing I've got is a glass of tap water, and that's just for moistening these files so I can wet sand. So let us begin. So I've cut these two off a sprue already, and I've done a bit of work, so I was partway through filing these up. At the moment I'm just cleaning down the seams that run along the edges of the tracks. So I'm using the file to just square off the end, or clean off the end should I say. And then I'm going to use the knife to go in between the tracks and just clean up around the link bolts. So it's quite nice and easy. It's a nice part. I mean, these parts are beautifully cast. You know, this is very little work really to do. Yeah, just nice, easy work. And this is kind of like what I enjoy. I really enjoy doing this sort of stuff with resin kits. I find it rather therapeutic working on resin models. It's a good way of letting your brain have a reboot from the stresses and hectic busyness of day-to-day life, I find. Yeah. So yeah, channel Leakycheese is, well, just over a year old now. And it's been an absolutely fascinating year. I suppose firstly, I guess I'll start off by saying I feel it's been, yeah, a very successful year for the channel, or for my new channel. And at the moment, you know, as of sort of just before I started doing this video, I was on, I think, 4,700 15 subscribers. So thank you everybody who has subscribed and watched the video. It's amazing. I have to admit, I never expected to start with that I'd get that sort of number of subscribers or indeed views. So I guess the first thing is it's been very pleasing to achieve some success with what I do here, and I suppose that's turned into something more than just kind of like interest. It's I've recently set up a Patreon to support the channel, and you know, and now the channel's, you know, it's actually financially supporting itself. So all these models that I buy and building materials and all that sort of stuff that they do, and you know, in some videos the time that goes into researching and writing them, it's really nice to just get that financial reward as well. And it also helps me to justify it to Mrs. Leakycheese. But yeah, so 1 year on. So I suppose I should really, if we're talking about this, is think about the start really. I mean, and I might have told this story before, and I know I have actually I can't remember, at some point. The way the channel started, well, let me tell you about the genesis of my idea, or the idea how it happened. So I suppose the first thing is I've like been an enthusiastic watcher of YouTube for a long time now. I'm very much of the opinion that old media is a dead end at the moment for me, and for a whole variety of reasons. I've lost interest, and I suppose more importantly lost trust in what we might classically call media platforms. YouTube though has been an absolute breath of fresh air. It's been a revolution. Now YouTube has its problems, but it also has a lot of advantages. There's a lot of opportunity there. And I'd seen a few, maybe 2.5 years back, I think I'd first watched some 40k content on YouTube. And I had an idea. I thought, well, I'm doing all these nice models, and I think I've got quite good building skills, and I've got a lot of knowledge of the hobby. You know, so I've been doing this for a long time. I started back when Rogue Trader was out, so 1988, with a group of friends, and I thought, well, yeah, let's give it a go. And I remember it now. I think it must have been a couple of Christmases ago. I remember I had a bit of time, and I just kind of recorded a couple of almost like test card videos where I tried to just simply describe a couple of models. I think it was maybe a Land Raider model and an Iron Hands miniature. And I just had a little go, and I don't think they were particularly good. And I did a few of these, maybe did half a dozen, experimented with a few sort of like camera angles. I know it didn't really work for me. I wasn't very pleased with it to start with. And kind of part of it was, I guess, finding a style for what you want to do. And describing model is something you can do, but it wasn't enough on its own, I felt. So I did those and I left it, but the idea kept bouncing around in my mind for a long while. And it bounced around, and I kept thinking about it a bit and playing it through in my mind how I might do voiceover videos. So that's what I was thinking of doing, you know, filming them and doing it voiceover. And I think towards the second half of 2016, I thought, right, I'm going to have a more serious go at doing a video. And my first ever video that I put on YouTube was I can't remember when I filmed it now, I'd have to go back and check. I don't know, let's say it was maybe August or July 2016. And it was a model and rules review of the Thanatar siege automata for the Mechanicum. I don't think it was particularly good, but it was a start, and I put it up. It kind of like got a few views over time, not many. You know, and you kind of like put these things up and you're kind of excited, and then not much happens. So I then left it. I didn't think much anything of it for a while. And then I came back to it, I don't know, maybe a couple of months later, and I noticed it maybe got about 90 views. I thought, oh, okay, so some people have actually watched this video. I don't think I got any comments at that point, and I don't even know if it had a like. It might have had just the odd like. I didn't really know anything about how to YouTube in terms of the actual, let's call it the channel management side of things, how to make that work well. But at that point I thought, well, okay, let's have a go, doing some more. And that was when I really started to do the channel seriously. And to start with, I started filming videos, and they're all still posted. So if you go back through my archives, you know, they go all the way back, and the early ones, I think there's a radio review. What else was very early? Expeditionary Navigator review, a Horus Heresy miniature. Really early ones. And I started and I kept going. And I started posting a few videos every week. And to start with, not much happened. But then, all of a sudden, I noticed I started to get a few subscribers. And people started commenting on the videos. And I started kind of like, well, having a discussion with these people about what we're doing. And it was good. And it was nice and personal back in those early days of a channel when you've only got a few viewers. It was quite an interesting time. It's a good time for just seeing what people thought and people's suggestions were. And it started to develop from there. And my first videos were model reviews. And then I started to... What else did I do then? I think I've done some book reviews. I also did some quite in-depth pieces of analysis work, and one of my early videos was a price analysis video, and that was actually there was actually a lot of technical work that went behind that, and I was just looking at, you know, and I did a proper fiscal analysis of how Forge World price rises had changed over the last, I think it was 5 years probably. And then I also did some tactical analysis as well. I mean, I think I did a piece looking at the differences between monstrous creatures and vehicles. So that was comparing the pros and cons of battle robots, battle automata in the Heresy versus Space Marine dreadnoughts. Yeah, and it started to grow and grow. And then I seem to remember I started doing some little short videos where I kind of did some modelling. And I think the first ones were where I was doing some like battle damage repair, which was quite which went down well. And what I was finding is I was starting to find formats that worked. I think if you're doing a YouTube channel, that's a really important thing, is to establish formats that your viewers enjoy. So things, a style of video that you can repeat. You know, and I suppose it's not like it's, you know, when you think about it, it's blatantly obvious. All successful YouTube channels, you know, they've all got a format that they use. Some YouTube channels just use kind of they have a single format and they stick to that. I suppose I developed mine a bit more broadly, so I kind of had I guess what started to be lots of model review ones. I took the approach of doing the model, the build, the rules, and then my tactical thoughts around it, and packaging that up into a single video, which works well, and I still use that to this day. When I stop my epic building marathon and start painting, means when I do videos about painting, they will be entirely separate from the actual model and anything to do with it in game. It's all going to be around the painting. So I think the painting is just going to be something in itself, which will be worthy of specific videos. Yeah, that's my thinking there. A couple of videos I did that got people's attention. I mean, you know, certain other YouTubers caught the attention of people. You know, people like Super Saiyan was one of the first. There was Kruro Angelus Silicis as well. Another thing I found was useful is just kind of like getting out there and engaging with other people who are making related content. And that kind of is useful as well. And you find that if you extend some generosity, you often find that people extend it back. And sometimes you're surprised when people do something for you, like giving you a shout out or a mention. It's really nice. And another one who did that was Wargaming Wizard. I still remember him doing me a shout out as well. I mean, that was very kind of him. And that started to grow and grow. So then as we moved into 2017, I guess I started to do quite a few book reviews. So I did in the back end of, well, mainly it was early 2017. I reviewed the Horus Heresy Black books, which was a big project, a lot of reading, because I went back and I reread the whole lot from cover to cover. So yeah, that was 1800 pages. That was a big reading project, but it was good and I enjoyed doing that. The other format the other episode type which I came across next, I think, was one of the series I imagine people know me quite well for, which is Retro Hammer. Retro Hammer is a real passion of mine. As someone who's got the perspective of what the hobby has been like over the last 3 decades, i.e. the game of Warhammer 40,000, I thought, something to be said here about these early models, and I wanted to share how much influence the early models of the game have on what's there today, and to try show to people and open people's eyes to understand that when you go into a Games Workshop today and buy some models, those models have got a long history to them. And then there are also the models that were there at the time and kind of like then fell by the wayside in designs that we didn't see again. So yeah, so Retro Hammer's been a lot of... I've really enjoyed Retro Hammer, revisiting models from my very early years. And also I've kind of done quite a lot of collecting of these early models as well, which I've really enjoyed, and kind of like building up a little Retro Hammer collection again. Because due to various events in my life, sort of like in my mid-20s, and before, I'd pretty much sold off my entire original 40k collection. Well, I mean, some of it I sold off earlier than that, but I had to get rid of a load of stuff at one point. So I kind of had a little bits left in terms of what physically I had, but of course I had all the memories, and I could remember what all this was like at the time. I don't know why, for some reason it stuck in my mind. And and I played the game back then and experienced 40k develop. Retro Hammer, well, what we're on to now, we're on to episode 12 next, and my Patreons are currently casting their votes on which episodes are going to get made next. And that's been really good with how that's developed. I've then done some other work. I've done quite a few video formats. So I do what I call analysis essays, where I actually look at, kind of like share some more like a long style video, sharing ideas around something that's happening in the game. And those can be all sorts of things. One video I did that certainly got a lot of interest, although perhaps not as much interest as... I don't think it's probably as well known as it ought to be, certainly for the technical work that went into it. I applied what I do professionally, which is business analysis, to do a fault analysis exercise on Forge World models based on the models I bought. I'm fortunate enough to have a big old collection of Forge World, good data sample to work with. That was quite a fun one as well. Took a lot of work, again, but the results were fascinating. If you've not already watched that, it's well worth checking out. This piece is coming along nicely, nearly there. I might need to take off the remains of the gates. Then I think in the first quarter of 2017, I had the idea to do the What Made 40k videos, which I've done 2 of so far. So that was looking at literature and other influences on 40k. In just the same way the models have history, the game lore has background influences. And that really fascinates me as a subject. I've only done 2 of those so far. I've done Dune and Starship Troopers, and those were 2 videos, particularly Dune, that really got me some wider exposure, shall I say, in the YouTube community. And today, the What Made 40k Dune video, I think, is still my most viewed video. And a month back, it went past 40,000 views. How about that? That was amazing. Never thought I'd get a video with 40,000 views. Really, really proud of that. And likewise, the next instalment I did, which was Starship Troopers. Although doing those the amount of work required for those is tremendous, and something that, I don't know, I'll do those as passion projects when I want to do them. They just take too much research to do on a regular basis at the moment for me. The only thing about those is the overwhelming reception of those is incredibly positive, and I really do appreciate how much positive feedback I've had on that. You know, I mean, the Dune video's got over 1,000 likes, which is brilliant. But you do get some people who like to pick the slightest fault with what you do. I wrote a lot of the Dune from memory, believe it or not. I kind of like just reference a lot of the appendices to check a few facts, but there were a few, I think I might have made a few, there are a few other little things I've not remembered right, but you do, I mean, don't get me wrong, you get some people who point it out quite kindly. We get some people who, shall I say, forget how information travels in the absence of normal communication stimulus, which can be a bit off-putting for those. So with Starship Troopers, I went back, I reread the entire novel, made extensive notes on it, I mean huge notes, and spent a lot of time making sure everything was accurate, or as accurate as I can make it, which I was quite pleased with how it got to in the end. It lacked the handful of errors that I think the Dune episode did have. But still, it's something that I'm quite wary of to do again because of that. Well, not wary of, but it's something that I'm only going to do if I'm absolutely certain of the accuracy. But yeah, so what made 40k though? But it's been, yeah, tremendously popular, and setting those handful of negative sort of thoughts aside, it has been incredibly well received, and it is great to hear all the positive comments that people have to say about that. So what else then did I get into? I mean, I suppose then as the channel grew, I started running giveaways. As a way of giving something back to you subscribers and viewers, which is nice. Yeah, that's done. And how many giveaways have we done now? So we've done 500, 1k, 2k, we did a 4k, did a couple of ticket giveaways in between. All being well, there's an opportunity to do one at 5k, which isn't far off. So if you like the videos and you're not already subscribed, could be worth considering subscribing. All right, so on to the second piece of track. These two pieces are the tracks, components that sit on the underside of the tank. So these kind of like long, straight pieces. There's other parts that wrap up around the front of the hull and onto the upper side. So let's wet this sanding stick again. Gonna smooth all this down. So what made 40k? Then I suppose we had the whole 8th edition, which ended up consuming an enormous amount of channel time. It's been a big thing, and I ended up giving it a lot of coverage because it actually turned into a really interesting story. Because 8th edition has been a huge change in 40k, while ironically not being as big when you compare it to the original game, it brings the game back a lot closer to what it originally was back in Rogue Trader. So yeah, that, and then the Primaris Marines. There was a lot of stuff to do content on there. There's that. Then you get like surprise videos that surprise me. I mean, the Repulsor tank with its proper dodgy transport rules and the whole transport nonsense around Primaris Marines. I did a little 10-minute video, and I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks and I just thought, wait a second, let's just do a quick piece on this. And I filmed it, and it took me about 15 minutes to film. Now I cut it down to just over 10, and it ended up had over 30,000 views now. So that was a really interesting topic, but it's also pleasant to sometimes make something and get like a surprise hit. Yeah. 8th edition, there was a lot to cover there. And arguably, there's a lot more to cover because 8th edition is going to be an evolving beast. And just at the weekend, we had the enticingly titled Chapter Approved. If you weren't around at the time, Chapter Approved was a book that was released by GW for 40k in 1988. It was one of the hardest books to ever get hold of, mainstream 40k releases. I desperately wanted it at the time, and it never appeared in Games Workshop in Leeds, so I don't know where they sold it. Maybe it only went to certain Games Workshops, or each shop only got a few copies, or maybe it's just mail order. I don't know. I missed it first time round, but they've picked up on the title, and of course the title was actually taken from a series of White Dwarf articles which were called Chapter Approved back in the late 90s and early noughties and teenies. Did we go into the teenies? Maybe it was actually the noughties of the White Dwarf, the original run. Yeah, so that's an evolving thing. What else have we done? I mean, there's other formats. I mean, occasionally I do a time-lapse build video, which I like doing. I enjoy filming them when I get them set up. They don't work for every model, and they do take a lot of work to facilitate. But I do enjoy doing those, and I think I most enjoy putting the music to them. Because YouTube is a wonderful resource of free music. And there's a lot of really good quality music as well. It's not just kind of like all crappy stuff. Some great stuff out there. So yeah, time-lapse videos is another format. I suppose a bit like the repulsor tank. I do from time to time the odd sort of speculation or news discussion video, let's call it. Quite nice when the opportunity presents itself. I mean, I always try to, when I do a video like that, I try to do it where I feel I've got something original to say. So either it's not been said already, or it's about a topic where maybe some other 40k YouTubers have made content on it, but I think I've got a different perspective, something fresh to add to what they've said, rather than just kind of making videos about every news topic there is. I mean, which works and is a completely legit way of doing it. That's how I like to do those. Let's put it that way. So what else do we say about channel Leakycheese 1 year on? I suppose comments are a big thing about the channel. I do try to respond to as many comments as I can. I still get to a lot. I don't get to all of them like I used to do when the channel was smaller. But I certainly do read them all. The comments are great because you find out all sorts of things that you didn't know. People remember things that you've forgotten, or you know, maybe stuff that I remembered wrong, and all those sorts of things, which is it's always useful to get some input on these things. The occasional comment from someone who has something to do with the actual operation at some point, yeah, which are the real gems. Just for the knowledge they represent, of course, the sentiment that many people express all the time is equally well received as well. as I say, I do read all my comments and I try to respond to as many as I can. What else about the channel then? Tie-ins as well, or collaborations with actual manufacturers. Well, I have had a couple, and I've done some good content with Spellcrow Miniatures. They make some, they make really nice resin components and other parts, and a lot of it is very heresy compatible. I like working with them, and it's great to review their stuff. I also like to work with them because they respect me, because I say yeah, I would like to review that, as long as you're happy with me voicing my own opinion. I'm not getting into the habit of captive advertising, which is a concept I'm not particularly comfortable with, or kind of like getting into any sort of contractual arrangements with people where there would be a expectation or a requirement, responsibility in a contract for me to fulfill a particular narrative to articulate in the video. And I think that's something that us on YouTube in the 40k community have to be aware of, because it's happening more and more on YouTube channels, and you need to be very careful, because I've seen it happening with channels that have morphed from being, let's just say, a pure hobby channel into ones that are carrying out what I call captive advertising. And captive advertising, it has other names, but the concept is you approach someone who has a relationship with some people, so let's say a YouTuber, and the company says, oh right, and we'll pay you this, or we'll give you this if you'll do a review of our model. However, you have to say these positive things about it, and you also have to sign a non-disparagement clause with us, or some sort of agreement. And then on YouTube, there's very poor standards of sponsorship disclosure. Some channels do it really well, and you know who you are, and I commend you for that. Some channels don't, and that's something I would never be comfortable with doing, because use my subscribers and viewers, there's a relationship of trust that's built up, and you trust what I do and what I say, or certainly my perception of it is, because you perceive me as being an independently minded person who gives an opinion based on my experience, my knowledge, and not a commercial relationship. That's another interesting part of doing a YouTube channel, my personal thoughts on it, and those are my personal principles about it, and different people can do as they see fit. But as always, just watch out and be aware of where captive advertising is occurring. What else could I talk about? What are we on to now? 45 minutes. I suppose the next thing I'd like to talk about is kind of like the sort of bit where having established a certain presence in the YouTube 40k sphere. It's a very modest one, but I'm proud of it nonetheless. I'm always thinking about what to do next, and I'm always thinking for do I stick with the sort of formats that I've got, which I'd say has been model and kit reviews and building demonstrations, which I think is something I've got a talent for. I think tactical analysis is something I really enjoy as well, the rules analysis. Retro hammer, clearly that's a strong one, and that is going to go and keep going. But there are other ideas as well. It's great having these ideas for new ideas and new video approaches, but at the same time it's very easy to run away with yourself and lose focus. And certainly for me, I'm aware that I've kind of started the process of reviewing my 3 big Horus Heresy armies, and actually now it's probably more like 4 or even 5, and I'll come back to number 5. I've got partway through the Iron Hands, so I need to get back to those and pick those up again, and that's a bit about focus. It's very easy to get distracted, and I guess 8th edition has been a very interesting thing to explore, but at the same time it does mean I've neglected these other projects. Then again, I'm not too bothered about that It's just being aware of it. If I look at the number of videos I've done, I think I would rate myself as being, just by looking at what else is out there on YouTube in the hobby, I'd rate myself as being a pretty prolific creator. I can't remember how many videos I've done. It wouldn't surprise me if I'd done 300 videos, slightly more in the first year. That's several every week consistently. So I'm really proud of that, because that takes a lot of dedication to keep the output up. And another thing with kind of that is designing your channel. Here's another observation to people thinking about doing YouTube is, one of my early ideas about this channel was to align it very closely with what I was doing just day to day in the hobby. So it was basically, a lot of my content is my hobby. You know, obviously I present it in a certain way, and I do so in a way to make it interesting and informative for you guys and girls. But clearly I've moved outside of that, going to other projects as well. But that's helped with having lots of ideas for content. I guess thinking ahead though, what comes next? Well, I want to finish those iron hands off in terms of the review process. Then finally I'll be able to start working on painting projects, which I've been putting off, and you know, and I'll when I'm ready, I'll do the painting, and we'll have some fun with the painting. People who want to see painting, well, I hope you'll appreciate that in the same way that I do with my other content. When I do come to it, it'll be done well, and it'll be informative for you, and hopefully it'll be enjoyable as well. And then there's a mechanicum to do. We've got the custodians, and then there's a fifth army, which is kind of like the militia force. Yes, and then the militia list. So the militia list, so this is Horus Heresy militia list as per book 5. It's actually been a little bit of an unplanned project, but one of the things, and this is another theme of what I've been doing on the channel, was exploring resin miniatures from other science fiction manufacturers. And that's been quite a fun little adventure, and I bought all sorts of odds and ends, and some more obscure, others less obscure, and I've really enjoyed doing this. And I guess, you know, and discovering and getting to do some work with models from people like Victoria Miniatures out in Australia, who are just a class act. Likewise, Anvil Industries here in the UK, you know, they've got an enviable reputation for quality production. Zinj, likewise, they do some, again, excellent quality, some great accessory parts, really good styling. These are all kind of like the compatibles to 40k, and then there's other things which are not to do with 40k but work well in 40k, or have the potential to work well in 40k. And I've really enjoyed, you know, exploring that and also sharing those different manufacturers with you as well. The actual idea for that is because I was trying to, after I did my video about Forge World quality, my personal perception of it, you know, I'm a scientifically minded sort of chap. And the logical question is, well, okay, Forge World are one of many resin miniature manufacturers. It's all very well and good saying they've got this issue A, B, C, D, but is it actually their problem, or is it a characteristic of making you know, scale models in resin in general? And that was another thing that led me to look at those models, because I've been wanting to answer that question myself as to whether or not, you know, to try figure out what's, you know, well, it's like saying what's real, but, you know, what is the good standard? What is a good standard for resin miniatures? So that's another thing that led me to that. I've bought some fantastic miniatures on the way. Probably not got that much longer to go on this video now. I want it to be probably around an hour in length, and I guess I've talked about a lot of what I wanted to do, you know, my first year in YouTube. I suppose the other thing as well has been the opportunity to, as well as interacting with all you guys and girls via YouTube, is actually meeting some of you in real life, and those people who are lucky enough to be able to get to events at Warhammer World, and that's been a great thing to do as well. And you know, meeting Super Saiyan, Mike from Cruror Angelus Solicus. I met the guys from Tabletop Banter as well at the last event I was at. That was great to meet you guys as well. I met Joe from Green Stuff Games at the UK Games Expo in Birmingham, which was really cool. If you've not checked out Green Stuff Games, yeah, have a check out of the channel. I really enjoy watching her stuff, so yeah, that's well worth a look. And then also just meeting a couple of other people, you know, people like Triggered Tycho, who won a ticket, and also James Perks, who won the last ticket a few weeks ago. It's been great to meet up with these people from YouTube, viewers, content creators, but it doesn't matter which really. Everybody has got a passion for the hobby, and that, at the end of the day, is what really counts. So I wonder what the next year is going to bring. You'll be pleased to hear I do intend to continue the channel. I don't see any reason to stop. Well, as a matter of fact, as I often say to people in the comments, well, I'm really only just getting started. I mean, even if you stripped away every kind of current affair or potential development in around 40k and other science fiction war games I might be interested in, there's still an absolute enormous amount of work I want to do on the collections I've got. I've probably got 2 or 3 years worth of painting just alone. I'd also say that I guess the other big one is the journey that is Retrohammer, and I really am just scratching the surface with Retrohammer. I mean, what have I done? I've done 11 videos. I'll soon be working on the 12th, but that's just a very handful of topics that are out there to do. I'm really excited to continue doing Retrohammer, and I hope, you know, all you guys and girls are as well, because it was a fun and exciting time in the hobby when Rogue Trader came out, and the first few years that followed it. So much was done then that is still with us today. Well, I guess having been there at the time, it's just my chance to share my memories with you all, and where I can explain what happened then and what was developed then is influencing or having an effect on what we game with today and the miniatures we have, and also the lore as well in some instances as well. I think that kind of wraps up what I had written down on my list of stuff to say. I'm sure I've missed loads. Another thing I've really enjoyed doing is the build and chat videos, much like this one, where I do a bit of modelling for you guys and girls to watch and talk about something. And I've quite enjoyed sharing thoughts about a couple of films that I've watched over the course of last year, and certainly got some really interesting discussion going around those as well. I guess that's me chatting for about an hour there about my first year of doing my YouTube channel, Leakycheese. I hope you found that interesting, and as I often say, but I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for coming by, getting involved and watching the videos and sharing your thoughts. I really do appreciate that. Let's see what the next year brings. I think it's going to be a very interesting year on lots of levels for 40k and the Horus Heresy as well. We've had a very tragic loss with the sad passing away of the late great Alan Bly, which means a Horus Heresy, will they be able to pull it back and recover it? I sincerely hope they do. I really, really hope they do. And we're going to see how that unfolds. This time next year, we'll have a feeling for how things are starting to shape up in the future. There's all sorts of stuff happening this year. I mean, there's Necromunda. I do wonder if we might start to see some murmurings of Adeptus Titanicus, or Titanicus, as they're going to call it next. There's the Fires of Syraxus, which I'm really keen to get hold of. And then just digesting, well, kind of like this yearbook for 40k, so Chapter Approved 2017, which I'll be doing a review of as well in due course. I pretty much spent the entire of this video just working on these 2 parts. But, well, that's how I roll. I just like to do them nicely. Even if on bits like these tracks, it might be a little bit out of view. It might be out of view having work that's not cleaned up, but it's certainly, in my case, I'm one of those people where it's never going to be out of mind. Yeah, perhaps that's why I do it. I think that probably about wraps up this little chat session. So I'd be very interested to hear what your thoughts and memories are of the first year of the channel. Maybe the highs, the lows, funny moments, whatever may come to mind, it'd be good to hear what you have to say on that. Just going to finish up this part, and then we've got the whole thing done in the video. Very nearly there now. hope you enjoyed that little bit of cleaning up to a bit of music, just to finish off there. Quite pleased with that, as well as our little Leakycheese Year 1 retrospective. Got a couple more bits of the Fellblade ready to build. As I said, please do share all your thoughts and comments about what I've been talking about. Very interested to hear. So yeah, let's see where the next year takes us on this interesting journey we're on. Other than that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.